Hey, I'm Shamar.
And I'm Andrew.
We're going to be doing a deep dive on all the connected DC animated movies and their cinematic universe.
Yes, I'm here to discuss the interconnected storylines and point out how jacked everybody is.
And I'm here to share deep comic book knowledge like Batman having his own sneaker line.
So check out yet another DC animated podcast.
Part of the Forgotten Entertainment family and coming soon wherever you listen to your podcast.
Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Dave.
And join us every Thursday for a new episode of Two Player Bros, a podcast about two guys who play way too many video games. Join me and Dave as we talk about the latest in Xbox, PlayStation, PC, and VR news, previews, and reviews. We have it all, and we play it all.
And join us every other week for Post Game, where we play through and dive deep into our favorite modern classics and new releases.
That's Two Player Bros, available every Thursday wherever you get your podcast, part of the Forgotten Entertainment family.
Hello there, I'm Colleen.
I'm Anders.
And I'm Daniel. We're three nerds who met through our love of science fiction and fantasy storytelling. Of course, one of our favorites is George Lucas's signature achievement, Star Wars.
And if there's one thing the internet definitely doesn't have enough of, it's nerds talking about Star Wars.
Not by a long shot.
Yeah, exactly. This is fine. So here we are with yet another Star Wars podcast, where every week we journey to a galaxy far, far away to discuss one of the films in the current Star Wars canon.
We talk about how our relationship with the film has changed over time, how the film builds on what came before it, and forms our understanding of the Force. Finally, we'll provide you with some recommendations for other material you may enjoy if you love these movies. And this week, we are joined once again by a very special guest, back again from Bohemian Geek Studies. It's the Queen Aquarius herself, Miss Sara O'Connor.
Hello, hello. It is so wonderful to be back and talking about The Last Jedi with you all.
Yes.
Yeah, this is exciting. So, as Sara said, we are going to be looking at 2017's Episode 8, The Last Jedi. This is the third Disney-made Star Wars film and the second in their Skywalker sequel trilogy. So you guys have a good feeling about this, or are you with the droid on this one?
I've got a great feeling about this, Daniel.
I'm sort of with, as usual, the droids on this one, though there are some really incredible moments in the film, so I'm really excited to be talking about it.
All right. I mean, this is going to work. It just has to. And ultimately, it did. I think this movie has divided fans possibly more than any other since it came out. But there's really no arguing with the box office. So let's get right into some tech details. Last Jedi was widely released on December 15th, 2017. It was written and directed by Rian Johnson. On a budget of somewhere between $200 and $317 million. I'm not really sure why I couldn't find a more definitive number. Everywhere I went was some kind of a range. It grossed $620.2 million domestic, $712.5 million overseas for a total box office gross of $1.33 billion.
Nice.
Ooh, not too bad.
Still a pretty sharp drop off from Force Awakens, which crossed that $2 billion mark, but absolutely nothing to sneeze at. And once you factor in like the marketing budget and everything, it was estimated this movie was going to have to gross 800 million in order to break even, which is insane to me. That something needs to make that much money just to break even.
That's wild.
If you don't have a strong opening weekend, it's kind of like, well, I guess.
Pack it up.
Yep.
That's
But
fine.
ultimately it did, and it was the most profitable film of that year.
Hell yeah.
But like I said, this movie has kind of divided fans since it came out. What about you guys? Do you like this movie? Has your relationship with it kind of evolved? It hasn't even been 4 full years since it came out, which is insane to me.
Wild. That's wild.
I mean, 2020 was like 5 years on its own, but still.
Yeah, everything feels way along.
In 84 years since I've seen this movie.
Oh man. Well, I left the theater buzzing. I absolutely love this movie. I've continued to find this. It's my favorite of the sequels.
Wow.
And it's probably my third favorite Star Wars movie after Empire Strikes Back and Rogue One. I will never forget the nervousness I had when I was watching the trailer and Kylo was targeting Leia. In that moment, I was so nervous. And then he offers his hand to Rey in the trailer and everyone's freaking out. They're like, what is going to go on? So the build up to this movie was intense. I ended up seeing this in theater 5 times because it was just so visually stunning. But I have to point out my favorite time going was I went with one of my best friends and his son, who was, he was probably like 5 or 6 at the time. He was just in awe, like seeing everything that was going on. Seeing him so excited made me excited. And so like I always have that nice memory about it. Some of the humor is kind of meh, but it's nowhere near enough for it to be a severe detractor. So I love this movie.
I have to concur. I love this movie. I think I saw it 2 or 3 times in the theater, twice in December alone. It's either my number 2 or 3, depending on the day. It kind of switches places with Rogue One, like whichever one I'm kind of in the mood to watch. It's absolutely beautiful. The shots on Crate, Octo, and Holdo's Suicide Lightspeed run in particular are just stunning.
That was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being in theater and it was like quiet, like no speaking. Everyone was just staring at the screen like,
Jaws dropped.
What just happened?
It was like a graphic novel come to life.
Yes, it was definitely a full freaking splash page shot for like a comic. It just so beautiful. I know it doesn't make a lot of sense with the physics and whatnot, but Star Wars has like only a friendly like shoulder pat relationship with physics. This is fine.
We're talking about hyperspace. Like,
right, exactly.
We don't have to worry about physics.
This is not hard science, y'all. We're doing fine. I actually had a really difficult time watching this movie when it first came out, but I was really excited to see it. Carrie Fisher had died basically 1 year before. And I remember vividly where I was when I heard that news. I was working in the back room at Pier 1 doing inventory, and I just started sobbing because I had my phone with me and playing music. And luckily, my manager was a huge Star Wars fan, so she came back and was like, "What is happening?" And I showed her, and she started crying.
Oh.
So we just sat back there and cried together while the other poor person was out front alone during the holidays. I remember sitting in the theater the first time, unsure how I'd handle the movie. And when Leia got sucked out of the bridge, I almost had to leave. I was having a really hard time with that. But
yeah,
then
I almost had to leave too. I almost had to leave too.
I was like, all right, put my drink aside, put the popcorn aside. I gotta get out of here. If she dies, this is not gonna work. But then when she opened her eyes, it's just like, yes. And then she used the Force to soar back into the bridge. Like, oh my God. And I know some people think the scene is corny, even though Kanan did something similar back in Rebels, which was before this movie. So somebody else had done it first already. It hit me so hard that she survived. Her handprint on the window when she goes back in. I'm like, oh, I'm done. This movie is excellent. I'm fine. Everything is good. It was just so powerful. And she survived. She proved basically in that moment that she was just as strong in the Force as Luke. And I'd been waiting for that for a really long time.
Yeah.
I don't know whether to say it here or later when we talk about what we hated. I hated it, Colleen. I am so sorry. That was
hated it.
I'm not exaggerating when I say I think it is my least favorite moment in all of the Star Wars movies.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Worse than the pod racing? My God.
Hated it.
I am so ready to unpack this. I'm so ready to unpack this. But
I loved it. Just because it was like Carrie Fisher was still with us almost. Like she hadn't been stolen away by some idiot in a TIE fighter shooting out the bridge. I know, Daniel, you wanted to say something about this too.
Oh, no, I just remember the discourse going ahead of this movie about if Leia was going to die in the film was just very, it was very prevalent, and it felt kind of strange.
Yeah. Whether she should die also was a big thing.
It was a very, very uncomfortable feeling ahead of time. Ultimately, I'm a fan of that scene as well, because I'm glad that they didn't kill off Leia there, because that would have felt so wrong with Carrie Fisher's passing. But yeah, I just remember that being such a big talking point ahead of time, and it was very uncomfortable.
I remember Rian Johnson saying, no, she finished filming this movie. Yeah. And we're not gonna kill her off on screen. We're not gonna like cut her out of the movie.
Right.
She finished, and we're gonna do that. And then that moment happens, and I'm like, was he lying to us?
Right. Yeah. I was like, oh my God.
Are they actually gonna do it? And it was actually pretty wild that they had a moment baked into the movie. that that actually would have worked if they
Mhm.
needed to do that.
Right.
See, and that's my thing. I went into it pretty much spoiler free besides like the trailers and everything. And I thought, what a great place for her to die. This is war. And then when she comes back like a zombie Mary Poppins, I was furious. I was furious.
Minus
I
the
loved
force,
it. I
minus
loved
the force, like pulling herself back though. That is actually a pretty realistic time frame of how long she could have survived. Just
Yeah.
throwing that out there, back into real physics and biology and stuff.
Well,
so
I mean, all that aside, I really loved this movie when it first came out. I think some of my love for it has dwindled some. I think I've been looking at it more with a critical eye. I think I've been looking at it more with respect to the full Star Wars canon. And so some of it has chipped away a little bit. And I think there were a lot of things in The Force Awakens that I was hoping would kind of pay off in this movie that didn't really happen. And maybe I've just been listening to the fanboys too much. So I'm excited to fall back in love with it, talking with you guys. But kind of that feeling that I got when watching The Force Awakens again, I didn't get it when I was rewatching this movie, and it made me sad. Like I had to break up watching the movie just because of life getting in the way. And so that might have impacted it some too, but the distractions weren't distracting. I was just kind of distracted, if that makes sense.
I gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that. Well, I'm with Colleen and Daniel on this one, guys. I love this movie. It is my number 3 in my Star Wars rankings. It barely loses out to Rogue One, and we get to why a little bit later. I mean, visually, this is nothing short of stunning. Like even now rewatching it, I'm just looking at it is beautiful.
Yeah.
The direction and cinematography is fantastic.
It's incredible. I remember I saw it twice in its opening, either its opening weekend or its opening week. I remember I saw it twice, once with one of my friends and once with my brother. And Leia making it back, like the fact that she didn't die there, she made it. It was just a very CG and kind of maybe cheesiness of the visuals aside, maybe the fact that she did it was just so cool. And I love what this movie does with the idea of symbols and really getting into the power and the reach of stories, how legends are really born, how it's important for those legends to spread, but also the dangers of what happens when people buy a little bit too much into those.
When they buy too much into their own legend.
Exactly.
You, Luke.
Everything about this movie is still paying homage and referring to other parts of the franchise, but still pretty shoving it in your face that this is not your parents' Star Wars movie. This is going to be different, and I am just here for all of it. This movie and Rogue One do really well. They explore the cost of war, what it ultimately means to be in a war. I mean, for us on a countrywide scale, but in this on a galactic scale, what does it actually cost? What effects does that have on a person, on everyday people, on the heroes, and just on the galaxy as a whole? And I love that it's this, along with things like Rebels and some of the later seasons of Clone Wars, really start to explore those themes. And I think this one does it. Possibly this one goes the furthest on that, I'd say.
It has the punch of Empire, which I appreciated. Because a lot of Star Wars is you can tell what's going to happen. For the most part, it's not surprising. But so many parts in this movie surprised me. And I love that. Like, I do like a nice, comfortable, like, Star Wars story, like The Force Awakens. So it's like, yes, I'm comfortable and I like this and everything about it is great. But then when the next one goes and like flips that on to the other side, it's like, oh crap, I really didn't expect to see that. I also really enjoy that feeling.
But moving into our next discussion point, our favorite chips, shout outs. Daniel, you have one that you wanted to start with, I think.
Oh, yes. So the very start of the movie, we get the Dreadnought from the First Order. I wish I had remembered to check what the Dreadnought's name was, but that thing is intimidating and powerful. Those cannons destroy the base in one hit. Plus, Captain Kennedy, the guy in charge of the Dreadnought, is a cool foil to Hux. So Kennedy's old school Empire, while Hux is like the new breed of officer. I like that their disagreement in different styles is one way that the sequel kind of establishes the First Order is still this new fledgling thing. It's different than the Empire. It hasn't really hit its stride with the efficiency like the Empire has. Like this is a different class of, like, this isn't your daddy's Empire anymore.
It's run by a bunch of teenagers.
It's your teenage knockoff.
Exactly.
But somehow you get better toys.
Yeah.
Toys such as Snoke's command ship, the Supremacy. Guys, I remember seeing this thing on screen and like almost having to sit back further. It's huge. This thing is a mega class dreadnought. And it is the mobile headquarters / capital of the First Order. Snoke was adamant that they not have a capital planet or a capital city because, as he said, he had like much larger designs in mind than the few systems that made up the old Empire or the New Republic. It is 60 kilometers wide with a crew of about 2.25 million people, various soldiers, engineers, scientists, kind of you name it. It can dock up to 6 Star Destroyers.
That's wild.
It also has research labs and factories, which are capable of churning out everything from stormtrooper armor to new Star Destroyers.
That's cool.
That is wild.
Sufficient. Just hope it doesn't get destroyed.
Yeah, just hope nothing kind of comes along and chops it in half, you know?
Right.
I really liked these ones. It was a cool new design for bombers. The Resistance bombers from the beginning of the movie, they're reminiscent of the old B-52 bombers, which calls back to the roots of these dogfights being kind of the World War II movies that George would watch for inspiration. If not even as an early form of animatic or original trilogy fighter battles. I mean, it's insane. These things are, when they get taken out, when one of them explodes and takes out the other ones, I'm like, you guys, widen your formation, please.
Come on.
Who came up with this formation? Poe came up with this formation. I do really love Rose's sister, Paige Tico's Her Last Stand is incredibly moving, even though we don't know her. Like, that actress just like nails it.
Nailed it.
So good.
Next up is the Radis, not to be confused with Radish, which is an MC-85 Star Cruiser. It was one of the last ships built for the New Republic Navy before it became part of Leia's resistance. It was equipped with experimental shields, which contributed to Holdo's success with her final ramming, amazing, beautiful maneuver. And named after one of the most badass Mon Calamari, Admiral Radis, from Rogue One. Very cool. Who
was also very good at ramming things.
Yes. Ramming speed. This one's from Mongala.
Radis is the best. And then the last one that we need to mention is the pleasure barge on Canto Bight that just sails right off the waterfall into the air. That thing was so cool. Jabba's barge, eat your heart out.
No kidding. Like, does it have to do that? No, but we're going to make sure it can because we're really rich.
We keep talking, we in our society keep talking about wanting flying cars. No, I want the flying boat.
Right.
All right, moving into our favorite aliens and droids. I love Snoke.
What?
I love
design is very
the design of him is so freaking cool.
I'm still not sure how big he is, but
like
really
a mangled Hugh Hefner in like a velvety robe is your thing.
Absolutely.
Your thing. Like a ball sack Hugh Hefner is your thing.
Andy Serkis does a whole bunch for that role. Andy Serkis is the reason Snoke is so great.
Andy Serkis is a great thing. I mean, Snoke, his species is officially unknown. I don't know. Maybe I just kind of like the mystery. Like, I loved this idea of this guy. I wanted to know everything about him. Where did he come from? How did he get connected with the First Order?
So then does like Yaddle turn you on too? Because she's so mysterious.
Yaddle is smoking hot. Come on.
Hey, baby.
You know what? Yaddle, Yoda, Grogu had to come from somewhere, people.
True. They must have been attractive. I mean, to each other. One frog person to another.
Absolutely. But Snoke, I mean, he's got all the swagger, despite the fact that he looks like a ball sack.
Yeah. It's like he knows it and he's working with it.
Yeah. And he's also, I mean, he's got the scars and like you feel like there is some kind of a story there
Mm-hmm.
that ultimately we don't
There's
get.
really not, but
Yeah, apparently there's really not, but
it looks like he has backstory.
I would still like to know the story of how he became involved with the First Order, given what we know from the Aftermath trilogy of
Mhm.
where the First Order kind of started. So at what point does he come into the picture and kind of consolidate things?
Because it seems like he usurps control from Ray Sloan.
Yeah, I
She's,
would think so.
Nowhere to be seen.
I would
and
think
she
so.
was the
I'm
one-
assuming she's dead.
Yeah.
Gotta kill off all of our strong female leads.
But on a much lighter note, another one that I just really loved from this movie, the caretakers on Octo.
Mhm.
They are
Nuns.
adorable.
Yeah, the nuns.
How do you solve a problem like a Jedi? Poor people.
I mean, they have been taking care of the temple pretty much since forever. There's a little more details on that in the novelization of the movie about the kind of deal that they struck with the Jedi way back when. Don't seem to really like Rey that much. They tolerate Luke. They tolerate Luke decently. He probably fixes his own doors and doesn't blast holes in the wall. But I mean, just their whole relationship with Rey is hysterical, considering how closely they are linked to the Jedi and how they are like supposed to be these protectors and caretakers, but they are still like grumpy janitors.
Oh yeah. Like we're supposed to take care of the Temple of the Jedi, but they're a Jedi here, and that's really annoying for us.
Yeah,
Yes.
makes it difficult.
They're like librarians. It's like a bunch of Jocasta news just wandering around this island.
She's the only Jedi they would enjoy.
Oh, they'd get along like a house on fire or a tree on fire, as we'll see later.
Exactly.
Well, next up is the most adorable little thing you've ever seen, and that would be porgs. They are so freaking cute. But okay, here's my question. They looked really delicious when Chewie was eating them.
They really did. They look like Cornish game hen.
So I need to know, like, yes or no, would you eat a porg?
I'm sorry, Chewie. I am picking up the porgs that you just put down. Like, you cook them.
I would absolutely.
I'm not wasting them.
Yeah, don't waste it.
Yeah. No. But like, would you go out of your way to eat a porg?
I mean, if it was
okay.
it's like the only thing edible on the island, it seems, except for that weird fish thing that Luke finds that looks awful. It's like, yes, I'd be.
Yeah, no,
Oh, I thought that looked pretty good.
Hey, I'm from Florida. I love seafood. I'll try it.
I do love seafood. I mean, maybe when it's cooked up, it looks like a nice swordfish steak. So then I'd definitely give it a try.
Make a nice like cream sauce out of the green milk.
Okay.
Ew.
Octo cuisine. Let's go.
I noticed
Cooking with
that
the
creature
caretakers.
is not on our list.
You know what? She seemed to be fine with it when Luke was doing that.
Yeah,
I'm just going to say
more
that.
Than fine. More than fine. She found Luke very attractive. Oh man, this is one thing. This should have been in my unbearable list that I really did not like about this movie. R.I.P. Admiral Akbar. Unacceptable. He deserved to go out in a way different. Yeah, pour one out, an entire one out for freaking Akbar. In Legends, he dies after completing like the greatest military campaign of his life. While he's basically an invalid stuck on Mon Cala, he does this. So then
that's pretty badass.
It's so badass. He's like old and dying, and he's like, "I'm gonna make a trap."
I'm not done.
And it works. And they're all like bowing down to him because he's fantastic. And then have him sucked out of the bridge unceremoniously.
I mean, to speak to a point that Sarah did bring up earlier, it is the reason I don't mind it is that's the cost of war. Anything could happen.
Yes.
So like I totally get what you're saying, because that is an amazing way to go in Legends. But I kind of like it for this, just because I never read that Legends stuff, so I don't have that frame of reference.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Definitely makes things more the stakes. It heightens the stakes a lot.
Yeah.
When you know that he's been killed. Like their entire upper management has been killed. Who do we got left? Poe. Damn it. Crap, we were not ready for this. All right, time for our sad, Daniel.
Yep.
Time for our daily sad. The Fathiers. I love these guys.
They
the
were
little
so
race
cute.
Horses. So cute. They're a non-sentient quadruped species. They're using
Okay, thank
competitive
goodness.
racing. Yeah, they can feel pain, obviously, and
They
are
can
very
feel
sad.
pain, but they're not sentient, so
They're
that
not
makes it a
sentient.
little bit better.
They're used in the racing on Canto Bight. It reminds me a lot of horse racing, but also greyhound racing, where once the greyhound is done, they basically throw it away. That's why greyhound rescues are so important.
Yeah.
One of our friends actually has 2 greyhounds that were rescued. We love you, and we love those 2 babies.
Yeah.
Remember when that happened to Santa's Little Helper on The Simpsons, though, you guys? This is what the father years reminded me of, was that they're going to get cast aside when they're done being good at racing. So good job, Finn and Rose, for letting them go.
Yes.
Next up is BB9E, who is the most adorable, evil little shit you've ever seen.
Yes.
He's the First Order BB unit on the Supremacy, and he's the dark foil to BB-8, obviously. And because he's a droid, he obviously discovers the intruders because all these humans don't know what's going on.
I gotta say, he looks badass.
Yes.
He does.
He looks great.
But
there's
you know
a version
what?
of him on Resistance.
Ooh.
And
Yeah.
he's also a little shit on that show, too.
Yeah.
So good.
I feel like, though, if he had to have a human form, it would be Peter Parker in Spider-Man 3 when he's got his like emo hair phase going on. Like Dark Peter. Yeah.
Oh God, no! Please, no.
No, I see it. I believe it. I love
Right?
it. I love it.
Daniel, I had forgotten Spider-Man 3 existed, and now you did.
I'd like to forget Spider-Man 1 and 2.
It's my
existed as
turn
well.
to make people sad.
Shall not besmirch Spider-Man 2.
That movie's
Okay, it sounds like
awesome.
we need to record another podcast specifically about this. But last in our favorite droids and aliens, the Vulptex, excuse me, the little crystal foxes that we see on Crate. They're so beautiful. I've been on a Pokemon kick lately. Where can I catch one? Like I need one in my Pokedex.
Want to snuggle with it,
Right?
even though you probably shouldn't, because they might be sharp. But I want to snuggle.
Probably would
I don't
be
know.
cool, but I agree with you.
Do they become softer in like warm weather? Maybe.
It's possible.
Could
It's
be.
possible.
All right, it is time to move into our untouchables and unbearables. What in this movie is absolutely perfect and what just doesn't work for us? I'm going to start us off with several of my untouchables here. Andy Serkis's performance as Snoke is so good. I mean, Andy Serkis is your go-to person when you need to give a dramatic performance with a motion capture thing, and he absolutely pulls it off. And I know I talked earlier about how much I want to get Snoke's backstory and all this other stuff, but I also love the fact that they killed him off.
Couldn't they have done both? Couldn't they have done both?
I would like both.
They could have,
They
but
could
just
have
like
done the backstory in the next movie, but then
but
they
just
did
like
not.
Sarah, just like that map, you don't actually need the backstory. Just like
I
the map from
think-
Force Awakens.
I think I'm gonna disagree. I think I want the backstory. I love the kill. I think that's great. I think that's absolutely great, and we'll talk about that. But I have to say that not getting the backstory and was one of the biggest disappointments from The Force Awakens to this movie, to just have that dangling out there for however long we waited, and then for it to just kind of end so unsatisfactorily with all of our questions not even answered. It was just kind of like
Wild.
blech, just like oatmeal. You're gonna eat it, but I'm not excited about it.
There was just several things in there. I mean, everything about it was subverting my expectations, which is what I think makes this the true spiritual successor to Empire Strikes Back. Like, the true legacy of Empire Strikes Back isn't necessarily that you find out that Darth Vader is Luke's father or whatever. It's that you didn't know what was coming at any given moment. His interactions with Kylo, calling that mask ridiculous, was just such a delicious
What a
moment.
smackdown.
That
Yeah.
scene is fantastic. I love it so much.
And then moving on to other parts of this movie that are just like some amazing small moments when Luke appears on Crate and he does the shoulder brush after coming out of the smoke. Just an absolute
Epic.
flex.
Just epic.
Such a little troll.
I love Luke in this movie.
Back on the Supremacy, the Praetorian Guards and their vibroblade weapons, how they all kind of have different weapons, and oh my god, that fight! I mean,
That's one of my favorites.
We could spend like 30 minutes probably talking about that fight, but put that aside for a sec. Laura Dern as Admiral Holdo.
queen. Absolutely.
Love her. She has
Nope.
such a presence on screen.
No,
I love
It's
her.
also she's just not here for Poe's BS, but still she has respect for him.
Mhm.
And she's willing to make that sacrifice play. Also, a fun little fact, she was having such a fun time on set that anytime you see her fire a weapon, if you look, her mouth is actually going pew pew.
I
that's
love that.
cute.
I love that so much.
Benicio del Toro in this movie is the character. I wasn't sure what to make of him at first.
Vintage Benicio right there.
But he was DJ just ended up being such an interesting character to think about. I love that as he's leaving and they're like, how could you do this to us? You're on the wrong side. And he just says, maybe, like, not willing. He's not going to deny that he's sold them out, that this is not a good person thing to do, but he's not a good person and he's not going to hide that fact.
They caught him. He's like, they caught us. So sorry.
I did what I had to do to survive. Like, he's a fun, morally gray character that we don't get enough of in Star Wars.
Yeah. And then Finn versus Phasma, their fight, their final duke it out. Yeah, Phasma did kind of get shafted. I would have liked to have seen more of her in this movie overall.
Yeah, a little louder, please.
That is
I
a
would have
big detractor for this movie.
like to see. Finn's
you don't
whole
waste Gwendolyn Christie like that.
Finn's "Let's Go Chrome Dome." I was in the theater to be like, yeah, that's right.
The deleted scene that they have of Finn versus Phasma, I think, is a little bit better. I wish they had kept that version. It was a little more like fleshed out, gave them a little bit more of a fight. Because
which
Phasma
they both
deserve.
They
both
deserve
deserve
to have that moment.
Yeah.
Like, the janitor's back, bitches.
Uh-huh.
It's gonna destroy you all.
So can we talk about Holdo for a second, though? Because so many people say, oh, she should have talked to Poe. She should have talked to Poe. But like, Holdo is introduced to him right after the woman she respects so much, Leia freaking Organa, had just demoted Poe. Like, she doesn't owe anything to Poe. He's a liability. Like, they have no idea how the First Order is following them. Like, she doesn't need to disclose their plan to everybody. Like, he's not a ranking officer in that room who needs to know. So I didn't have a problem with her not telling him. What are you guys' thoughts?
I thought about this a lot because I remember I used to be on the train of like, would it have been that hard for her to just like, to just tell him, like, this is what we're doing? But now the last couple of times I've seen this movie, I'm like, no, she doesn't. And it's not even about like respect or anything on her part. It's totally down to Poe. He's just too thick to see what's going on in front of and understand what's happening all around him. Like everyone else in the ship pretty much is fine carrying this out. They either just straight up trust her because she is the one in command, the one right below Leia, or they understand, they can see the bigger picture around them. And Poe is just too thick-headed. And now, I mean, yeah, he's angry, he's scared. I'll cut him a little bit of slack, but everyone else is willing to roll with it, and he should have too.
She owes him nothing. Absolutely nada. And I hated how Poe wouldn't shut up. And like, frankly, I didn't buy into this as part of his character art. And so I hated that they turned him into like a fuckboy flyboy. I hated that.
Yeah, that was an interesting choice. I know why they did it, and I can see why they did it. They cover it really well in the book Resistance Reborn, his kind of guilt over what happens and realizing that he was being a huge tool. But that's in a book. I mean, and a lot of people don't read the books.
You have to... Okay, yeah, I don't read the books, first of all, and it shouldn't take a book to explain something problematic in the movie. It's just problematic.
Thank you.
Yes, exactly.
I do kind of like his arc, though, of like in the first movie, we see that he's like all flash and flare. And then when he's like actually tested in like a leadership capacity, he has to learn like, oh, maybe I should shut up. And instead of like Anders, you were saying, he's so thick-headed, he's rushing into every confrontation. Like, he's having confrontations with her. He's not having conversations.
Right.
I think
It's
if
not
he
a
had come to
dialogue.
her, if he had come to her and said, Admiral, I'm a little concerned. This is my concerns. Like, if he had come to her as a level-headed person, I think it would have gone way differently. So,
and
yeah.
And I also think that he didn't learn anything, because then at the very end of the movie, it comes down to him leading them by following the little ice foxes out. So like, it still is a problem that just exists.
I think he did learn. He did learn because
He
I mean they had
he
to
learns
go
that he can't sacrifice everybody, which was good. Like, no, we got to run, y'all.
right.
Yeah, and he learned not to go back up Luke. Like he wanted to go rush out there. He's like, no, he's buying us time. I think he finally started to learn the lessons. Yeah.
About what it actually takes to make those command decisions.
Yeah.
Not
it took
just
too many
what
people
did you and your
dying,
ex.
but,
Yeah. Yeah. It took a lot of people dying, and he needs to own up to that. But the idea that also, just like the First Order, the Resistance isn't exactly a well-oiled machine yet.
No.
It's still pretty new.
Yes. Yep.
So this idea that there are conflicts among some of the ranks,
It makes sense.
I do enjoy, and I think it makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Now
like,
he only had to follow the ice foxes because they had to find a way out.
it's like, follow the foxes. That sounds fun.
Obviously. Thanks, movie.
Obviously, you follow the foxes. For Holdo, I mean, she's one of Leia's oldest friends and confidants. So Poe, sit down. This woman is vice admiral for a reason. Like, come on, you're pretty, but no,
her plan's good.
Right? Like, it's a good plan, and she doesn't have to tell you every bit and piece of what's happening. She just doesn't.
Oh,
yeah,
it's frustrating.
All right. So moving into my unbearables, I only have two, and they are overall relatively minor things. I don't know why, but this movie is written, I think, exceptionally well. But every time they refer to the character as the Master Codebreaker, I just like giggle to myself and I kind of fall apart. Like, if Maz knows him as well as she apparently does, I think she could have given him the name. Like, so when
Justin Theroux, that's his name.
Yes, his name is Justin. He is a Master Codebreaker, which isn't even a real title. It's not like you would walk up to him and say, "Hello, Master Codebreaker. I'm Rose and Finn." So every time they are running around the casino and Rose is just like, "Where's the Master Codebreaker?" I just kind of giggle to myself and fall apart slightly.
I'm sure Maz is over on her planet also giggling. She's like,
true.
I didn't even tell them his real name.
Oh, she had a great weekend on Canto Bight with the Master Codebreaker and Chewie.
Oh yeah, Maz is definitely down for a threesome of that sort. Definitely.
Maz Kanata, Chewbacca, and Justin Theroux is a wild combination. Oh man,
we need the spinoff immediately.
Yeah.
All it couples with Star Wars.
And then my one other unbearable for this movie is 2.5 hours long. And I don't want to cut any of it, but the premise of we're running out of fuel and they're chasing us, it's not, the movie is too long to sustain that for as long as it does. And even when they get away from that, the chase is still happening. Right. And it's not like a cat and mouse thing, like a spy movie where you kind of keep missing each other. They are in view of each other the entire time.
Right. It's not like Battlestar Galactica, where the 33 minutes episode, where that actually had like so much more tension because it was shorter.
Yeah. There's just a lot of stuff happens.
And in real time.
A lot of stuff happens while they are supposedly running out of fuel. And then they just like check back in. Oh, we're still running out of fuel. We're still running out of fuel.
You're like, all right, sounds good. But I do like that human pilots stay behind so that they don't sacrifice a droid. There's a lot of people online who are like, why don't you just let a droid fly or have it on autopilot or whatever? It's like, the droids are people too.
Yes, they are.
The autopilot's not though.
Like, that's true.
The captain's going down with their ship to make sure that their people survive.
I mean, there has to be a reason why an
there definitely does.
Had to be flying it for some reason. But yeah, let the droids live their lives.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So for my untouchables, we just have to talk about Daisy Ridley and Adam Driver because they brought their
the best.
Anything to do with their force time sessions is just so gripping. It's just I loved it. I thought they are like the two best parts of this movie, like in terms of the performances. Like they were up there. I know people wanted to see prime Luke, like we kind of see in spoilers for Mandalorian season 2, at the end of Mandalorian season 2. I know people want to see that, but JJ left him in exile, so it kind of makes sense that Luke would be this tired, beaten down guy. Like it's been 30 years since the events of the original trilogy. Like he's tired. Like he has fought and fought and fought against the dark only for it to reappear in his own family. Like I bought into Luke's lesson, like everything he was talking about, because like I get it. You've fought this long, and then for it to be so close to home, I can see why he was so scared in that moment. Also, his lessons on the hubris of the Jedi, talking about how they fell to Palpatine, that was amazing. It hit perfectly. That was one of my favorite scenes. And then his sacrifice, that is the most Jedi thing we've ever seen. They talk about using the Force never to attack, for defense. That's what he did. He defended his people. He projects himself across the star systems to go defend his sister and the rest of the Resistance. And
that scene with him and Leia, though.
Oh, when they get reunited.
Oh, my heart.
Beautiful. And he hands her the dice.
What? Okay, hold on. I was going to ask this later. What are the dice from?
That is from the
Han's
Millennium
dice.
Falcon. They hang in the cockpit.
Okay.
Which
Han
we
has
later
them in the
see in
movie
Solo as well.
Yeah. They
And
were
you
just
can
like
get them
this
at
random.
Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah.
They were this random background prop that like no one ever really noticed until this moment, and then they brought them into Solo.
Yeah, they were just like a thing in the movies and no one really paid attention. And I'm glad that they made it like that little small thing was,
Yeah, like Luke acknowledges that he was gone when Han died. Like, I'm sorry, I was gone.
Yeah.
And didn't
I thought
feel
that
it
was a
because
beautiful
I
way
was
to do it.
disconnected from the Force.
And so my usual untouchables, the action is brilliant. And of course, I love the space set pieces. It's just anything to do with space is always going to make me happy. I think where the film ends left the series in a really great place. So I thought Rey taking up the mantle of the Jedi, Finn ready to fight for more than himself and just Rey, Poe understanding what it means to be a leader, the Resistance is whittled down, but they've got this renewed drive. Kylo's poised to be the big bad of the final film. It set up so many things, and I see so many detractors talk about this movie leaves you with nothing. What are you going to do for the last movie? There's all of that. I thought it left us in a great place. So I understand not everything that I'm talking about pays off in later movies.
But it was set up to
that one next week. It was. I thought it had a brilliant setup, so I left this movie going like just so excited for the future. To my unbearables, though, I get the idea of the Cantina planet. Like Canto Bite's okay. I don't hate that scene. I just don't think it was executed very well. It was a little prequels-esque, some might say. I dislike how sidelined Finn feels in this movie. He feels so disconnected from the main plot. And especially after what we've heard from John Boyega talking about how there just really wasn't any plan seemingly for Finn or for Rose or anyone. It was just kind of, we like Daisy Ridley and Adam Driver had like storylines assigned for their characters, but everyone else just kind of fell by the wayside. It makes me sad watching this to know what he went through and how he feels about it now. I love Rey, and I love that she's such a figure for girls and women who got to see like a Jedi on screen. But I kind of wish Finn could have been a Jedi too. Like, I don't want him to take over for Rey. I wish they both could have had their own, journeys in the Force. Like, I think having Finn stay with Leia and kind of learn the Force in a different way, not as a full-on Jedi, but kind of how Leia does, like instinctually and kind of subtly uses the Force. I thought that would have been a cool way.
So much now.
Yeah,
they do it a little bit in the Lego movie, which I think was great.
Yeah,
they do.
Like,
I want that.
Yeah, I wanted that a lot. And then Anders, you're right. The running out of fuel thing it goes on a little too long. I think we could have spiced it up. Maybe like, what if they were trying to like dodge them through an asteroid field? But then that feels a little reminiscent of Empire, like too on the nose. I don't know. I feel like there's a little something they could have done to spice up that chase. Yeah, but otherwise, like my nitpicks are pretty minor. I watch this movie and I'm just happy.
Aww.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna shake it up and start with my unbearables because I want to leave my untouchables to like be the precious little untouchables that they are. So we already talked about how absolutely horribly agonizingly unbearable it is to watch Leia fly through space. Ugh.
I'll give you that the choreography could have been a lot better. But I love the emotion behind it. But it does not look great.
That's what I'm saying. The emotion behind it is completely separate from execution, and execution, like, anyway.
I get you there.
I also did not like the Rose kissing Finn and saving Finn thing because, like, Rose, sweetheart, let the man make a sacrifice. This is a thing that the Resistance is really bad about doing, and Anders has talked about this before, I believe.
Yeah,
this is a big Star Wars trope of like, this person's going to make a sacrifice. Nah, by hell they are.
Yeah, it's a problem, Rose, because you didn't know that Luke was about to do what he was about to do, and if Luke wasn't there, you literally just effed the whole thing up. Because you wanted a kiss and to save Finn. Like, I do not get me wrong. I am so glad that Finn is alive and well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Alive and well. But once again, the execution on it was horrendous, in my humble opinion.
I'll give you the kiss. I'll definitely give you the kiss. Like, that was just random. I don't like the kiss.
No. I love that she saved him, though. It's so realistic.
I do like that she was willing to
like,
save him.
My friend is not going to die today.
I get. Well, you know what?
Yeah,
honestly,
but they almost die in that crash.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Like, listen, if Luke wasn't there, y'all are dead anyway. Yeah. So, Rose, you giving him 5 extra minutes is like just a snooze.
If they actually had Finn go through with that sacrifice, I think that would have been wild to see. I would have been sad that Finn would have died, but I think that could have been an incredibly powerful moment. But then we probably wouldn't have gotten the Luke stuff, and I'm really glad what we got from Luke. So
the Luke stuff, that's one of my untouchables. So we'll get there in a hot second.
I also think just the kiss, I'm not here for.
Yeah.
So the setup for that, not so much. I do kind of like the line, though. I like the sentiment that we're going to win by not destroying what we hate. It's going to be saving what we love. Now, if they had done that in a slightly better way, might be a different story.
It's very Ezra. Like, Kanan got kidnapped, but we're not going to let him stay kidnapped.
Exactly.
Yep.
My little guy.
My next unbearable is that I'm going to defend my main man Poe again and say that I found it unbearable that they had him disobeying 2 powerful women's orders back to back. My Poe, okay, and like, again, obviously there's canon Poe and my Poe, but my Poe never, ever, ever would have done that. It distresses me.
It's not a good look. Especially when he grew up with like a powerful female role model like Poe.
And then my next unbearable is kind of a philosophical problem that I have with Luke. I think it's really odd that Luke wouldn't stand by Rey's decision to try and save Ben Solo. Because first of all, homie, you already made the mistake by like flashing your saber at him and causing all that mayhem. But second of all, Vader was the same and you saved him. So why will you not trust in Rey that she is trying to do what you did to Vader and with Vader to what she's trying to do with Ben Solo? I just find that to be incredibly unbelievable and very frustrating. It's very frustrating to me.
He's Obi-Wan now. When Luke was like, I'm going to save my dad, and Obi-Wan was like, God damn it.
Yeah.
I think he sees it as the cycle.
It's like this is a lost cause.
Starting all over again when he did save Vader.
I think he's wrong. I mean, he's definitely wrong, but
he did save Vader, though. He bought into his own hype. He was Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight, and he started this whole thing, and that led to Kylo Ren and Snoke.
And it all came crashing down.
And it all came crashing back down, and I think he's so sick of playing the game that in his mind at this particular point, where Rey finds him on that island, he's decided the only way to possibly win is to stop playing.
Well, then I
To win
guess
for
he
him.
should. Yeah, I guess then he should stop playing and support Rey, who's trying to get some work done.
So you know what I thought of when you said this, Sarah, was the Yoda quote in this movie where he says, "They are what we grow." Or shoot, I can't even think of what he said now.
They grow
something
past
about
us. It's like how
something
your
about how they
student
grow beyond
surpasses
us.
you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like had it in my head and then it completely went away. But
It's
yeah,
the
I
Yoda
thought of that-
syntax, man.
right? I thought of that Yoda quote because exactly like what Anders was saying and like Colleen, what you guys were saying is he is kind of the Obi-Wan figure in this. He like Rey is growing past his cynicism. Like she still has that bright-eyed like belief, and I thought it was kind of great that she brings that spark back to him at the very end, where he's willing, like, okay, I will do the sacrifice moment. I will stand up and fight like she's asking me to. So it is kind of sad that he still doesn't believe in Kylo.
Yes.
Which is
Yes.
very, I mean, again, it is very Obi-Wan-esque, but I do love, that he still has that moment of, I can be the Jedi legend.
Yeah. I do love how he says, "I'll see you, kid," to Kylo, though. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like a
I
little,
like
bit
that
of,
line.
little bit of hope at the end. Be like, maybe I will see you sometime.
I like that line, but I will have a lot to say about it next week when we talk about
Oh, yeah.
Rise of
Oh,
Skywalker.
yeah. Rise of Skywalker is going to be wild, you guys.
Yeah.
Well, now on to my untouchables. First things first, we'll start with a light little joke. I loved how Poe kept calling General Hux General Hugs on the phone. That was
I love that
perfect.
scene. I love it so much.
Honestly, that one does not do it for me.
Oh, I
I'm like,
love
Oh my
it. I
gosh,
love
no, Daniel, it's hilarious.
no, I'm
Domhnall
like, Poe,
Gleeson is
I'm like,
amazing
Poe, you can be
in that
better at
scene.
this.
No, it's
Okay.
perfect.
Just a minute.
Domhnall
I
Gleeson
also need
plays
to
it
get a
really
new drink. Keep going, though. Keep going.
Domhnall Gleeson plays it really well, but I just think like they make him so much more goofy in this one, where like in the first one, he was this terrifying, screaming fascist, and then here they kind of play him off as this like goofy dude, and I just I don't care for that characterization that they go for Hux in this. Like I kind of wanted more of the crazy fascist we got in the first movie.
I mean, listen, that's a separate issue than from how great the General Hugs joke is.
Yeah, I just like the humor in this. Like, you know what? I will agree with some of the criticism that the humor in this is kind of Marvel-esque. That does feel like a kind of Marvel quippy joke that just doesn't feel as home in Star Wars.
True. And it was something, I think Rian Johnson was actually saying that it was one of the biggest things that he was nervous about in this movie is starting off on a joke.
Yeah.
I mean,
It
Poe
works.
was very jokey in the first one, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When he talked to Kylo, and he's like, "You talk, I talk. Who talks first?"
Does this work?
Well, next up, I love that creepy library for the Jedi books, but I love even more that Yoda made Luke think that they were destroyed and Rey saved them. That was just so perfect that the Jedi texts are still safe and protected. And like Luke, of course you're crying and whining and starting a drama fest. Like, sit down. The books are fine. Like,
Read them, have you?
yes.
Well, I scanned the index.
Yeah.
So
Check
ridiculous.
the bibliography.
I also love Yoda says there's nothing in there that the girl Rey does not already possess.
Yes.
Because of course that little troll already knows.
That she possesses the books. They're so great. It's so great. For a little bit more somber, I love that Kylo was unable to kill his mother.
Yes.
Yes.
That is one of my
That was a
favorite
great
parts. He's
moment.
like, "Nope, it's my mom, guys."
Mhm.
And
Like, yeah,
then-
I can kill my dad, but not my mom.
That is great because I love that all throughout this movie we get conflicted Kylo, where you're like, we really believe he might be able to turn through their conversations and through not being able to kill Leia. You can still see that humanity in there.
Yeah.
And then his turn at the very end, where he's like, "Nope, I can kill Snoke and I can take it all," and he fully goes down the dark side. Like I love that they strung us along the whole time.
Yes. And speaking of that, I love that Kylo and Rey are connected. Now, we don't get the term dyad until the next movie, but it lays the groundwork here so freaking well. One of my favorite quotes is by Yoda: "The greatest teacher of failure is so clutch."
Welcome back, Puppet Yoda. Please stay with us.
Yes.
Please.
Oh my God. He looked great.
So good. So good in this movie.
We already talked about like the Luke standoff, but the dust salt on the red planet and how Luke was using a vision to fight was so good, because you weren't really sure how Luke was going to get out of this. And the fact that he was using the Jedi Force in this manner was just so poetically perfect. It's probably one of my favorite moments in Star Wars.
Yes.
If not top 5, top 10 for sure.
And
And then
love that he picked his form from when Kylo would have recognized him. Like, this is his old form, and he's holding the blue lightsaber.
I was confused by that. I'm not going to lie.
He is emotionally manipulating Kylo so well in this scene. So
The little hints that they give us that we should have picked up on, and I didn't pick up on it at all until like Kylo puts the saber through him.
I started to guess when you didn't see the salt shift under Luke's foot. You're kind of like, why don't I get to see that gorgeous stark red?
Yeah.
The first time I was just so focused on like their faces and stuff that I wasn't even looking at their feet, because I was just so wrapped on like what's happening.
that's
See, and
Rian
that's-
Johnson, like this, like
Yeah, that's the mark of a good movie.
Yeah.
And then finally, to like end it on just a beautiful moment. I hated, let me start with an unbearable. Hold on, time out. I hated that Finn and Rose saved the enslaved animals, but left the enslaved children.
yeah,
Not
that's
great.
bad.
that is a tough
bad.
look.
Not great.
Hey,
But
they
I-
opened the door. The animals were smart enough to run through it.
I guess, but like to get back to that untouchable, I love how it ends with that little slave boy looking up to the night sky with the resistance ring on his finger and the broom like a lightsaber. That was just incredibly beautiful.
And the
I
fact
remember
that he
that in the
pulls it to
theater.
him.
Yes. In the theater at the end, when we walked out, I turned to my friend and I said, "Holy shit, did you see that little boy grab the broom with the Force?" And she was like, "What?"
Yeah.
Yep.
So I know
Missed
people
it.
make fun of, oh, broom boy, but like the whole
that
point
was
of this movie is
beautiful.
that anyone could have the Force, anyone could step up. And that's what I really love about Rey's arc in
Yep.
this movie.
Yeah.
So for them to continue it on with that child who was like, he saw something when like important when Finn and Rose were on that planet. He was inspired by the resistance in that moment. And I thought it was beautiful how they showed like that little spark of hope.
Yes.
Right.
All you
Can
need
be
to do
lit
is see
anywhere.
one person stand up.
Yeah.
And you're like, I can stand up too. Like, yes. Good job, Finn and Poe. Not Finn and Poe, Finn and Rose.
Yeah.
I just want to ship Finn with everyone, guys. So this is fine.
I mean, he's a very sexy man.
God, he's so good looking. He's wasted in this movie. We need more Finn.
Yeah.
Okay, my Untouchables. This is my favorite Mark Hamill performance. Live action, I should say, because his Joker is fantastic. I think it's his best performance of his career. And I know at first he was like, I don't really know what Ryan wants me to do with Luke in this movie. I'm confused by it. And then he went back and watched it and he was like, damn, I'm good in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, yes, fantastic. There was so much like, quote, "This isn't my Luke," quote, talk online. After
Yeah,
the movie
it's better.
premiered. Yeah, it's better. You'd think he'd done a complete character 180 with what people were saying, but young Luke is still there. He's still funny, like really funny. He's impulsive. He's reckless. His jump across that cliff, like, yes, of course he can do it. He's a Jedi. But the look on his face when he does it is just like, watch me. And then he just launches himself. Like, if that isn't old freaking Luke, I don't know what is. But then he gets the character development like an older Luke would have and that he deserves. I love Legends Luke. Legends Luke is great. Adore him. But this version, I can also really get behind. He's cantankerous. He's dismissive. He's lost. And he's so afraid. So afraid. And I think that's what people had a problem with, was that it wasn't brash Luke going and confronting the Emperor and getting Vader. This is like a person who is older, who has lived long enough to know that stuff doesn't always work out for you. He's broken. He's so realistic. Like, for a space fantasy, this is a very realistic portrayal of a person who thinks he's destroyed everything that he loves. His relationship with his sister, his relationship with his best friend, his freaking nephew. He thinks he's failed them. And he thinks he's let down the entire galaxy. So I think it's very realistic that he would flee and go into the unknown regions and be like, peace, I'm out. You guys take care of everything that I've ruined. Whoops. And then Leia was always the strong one. So that's believable too, that she would retake her mantle of general leader of the resistance and that Luke would just run. Very, very realistic and believable if that would happen. He's so much like Anakin, it's not even funny, you guys.
It's like they're related.
Yeah.
Right? Oh my God. 100% of his drama is brought upon himself.
Yeah.
He makes his own damn drama. Next, I love Rose Tico. I will fight people. I love her so much. It's probably because Kelly Marie Tran is amazing. I love her in this role. And the way she was treated on social media after the movie premiered was atrocious. And we do not support that. And we love you, Kelly. Keep making every movie that you can. I like that Rose is normal. She's got no powers. She's not physically intimidating at all. When she struggles against the freaking First Order stormtroopers, like, girl, you're not going anywhere, but she still tries. Yeah. She's just the normal person trying to make it in the galaxy. I love it.
Well, it looks like, Colleen, we're going to have to disagree once again. I really wanted to like Rose, but frankly, the character just felt flat to me. And I felt way more for her sister, that performance, than anything I saw from Rose. I don't know if it was because I felt like she was playing in a side quest. It was like the whole kiss thing.
Yeah.
I just could not get down with Rose. And that does not mean that any of that online vitriol was warranted, but it just fell flat for me. And I feel bad because I can't get on the Rose train. I just cannot.
You're very right that it feels like she was relegated to a side quest. Like, you're taking your two main characters of color and putting them on a side quest. Not exactly the best thing to be doing, even though they have good chemistry. And it's fun to watch them, but give them more to do if you're going to.
Yeah, I think Rose needed a bit more to do. Again, I think the kiss is totally unnecessary. I don't like how she just gets completely shafted in Rise of Skywalker after like they do a decent amount of work introducing her here.
Yeah,
but I do like her just like the Broom Boy. This idea that it could be anyone and all it takes is for you to see people stand up. She is that wide-eyed person. Finn finds her in the down bowels of the ship all alone. She is like the lowest part of that totem pole.
Yeah.
Of everything. And yet she has that innocence. She has that conviction. She is willing to stand up and do whatever she can.
She shocks him way fast. I love it.
Yeah.
When she's like, oh, you're trying to escape? Nope.
Yep.
I did like that part. That was good.
Yes. That's when she shows she has some like backbone.
I love pairing her and Finn. I thought that was a great combo though, because you see her, she's this naive, like hopeful, just like she's all in on the resistance. Like I don't think she quite sees the full scope of things yet. And then you've got Finn, who's just kind of jaded at this point. He's really only fighting for Rey. Like all he cares about is getting to Rey.
Yeah.
And so I think it was great putting them together so they can kind of blend a little bit. Like by the end, Finn realizes what he's fighting for. And I think Rose also finally understands what she's fighting for. While that speeder crash scene doesn't really do it for me, I think, Andrews, like you were saying, the sentiment behind what she says is really nice because like she finally gets what she's fighting for. And so I like the two of them together, but like you were saying, I think we probably could have gotten a better storyline for them.
Yeah.
But I like Rose as a concept and just Kelly Marie Tran, we love you.
I love her so much.
Yeah.
She's so fantastic.
Except for Sara, who apparently just like totally hates you. I don't know. I don't know
Yeah,
what's going
sorry
on.
about that. Listen, I'll watch you in other things. It just wasn't my favorite. What can I say? If you're literally listening to this, I do apologize.
It's not her fault. She delivers a wonderful performance. I think they just needed to give her more to do. Speaking of poor Finn and Rose, the Canto Bite sequence, this is my unbearable, is too long. It is too long.
Saying.
There's
Yeah.
not enough to it. I like that they wanted to do like a rich person's version of Chalmers from
Mhm.
A New Hope. I like that idea. I like the dichotomy. It doesn't quite work. It gives a nice political weight to this galaxy that doesn't come up again in Rise of Skywalker, so it feels
Yeah.
really empty that it was included here. And they especially left Broom Boy, love him, whose name is Tamiri Blag. Great name. They left him hanging. Like, I was ready for Broom Boy to do more. Related to Broom Boy, it's more of an unbearable because of what happens in Rise of Skywalker. Rey's parents being nobodies. Like, I love this idea.
Mhm.
Love
Yeah.
Yeah.
it. Bring on the nobodies who are suddenly the most powerful person
Yes.
in the galaxy. Like, yes, you get your Skywalker, you have Ben Solo. And then you have this girl who rises from nothing to meet him. I love that idea. Give me
Yeah.
it all day. But of
I
course,
love that idea.
doesn't come to fruition. So then it becomes unbearable when you watch Last Jedi again. You're like, well, that came to nothing. So now I feel bad.
So I know we're on the Last Jedi episode, but I do want to just say a little bit about how that goes forward in Rise of Skywalker.
Mm.
It also could have been interesting having Rey deal with the fact that she comes from something dark and awful
Yeah.
and having to overcome that. But I
Mhm.
think introducing both ideas in the same trilogy, that like one overwrites the other,
Right.
like you said, yeah, it really does. It makes me kind of sad when I watch the scene because, like you said, I love the idea of Rey being no one. I love the idea that the only reason she's here doing this is because the Force plucked her up and chose her.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
it's such a wonderful concept that like anyone could do this. You just have to answer the call of the Force.
It's
Right.
it's the midichlorian problem all over again, just by a
Yes.
different name.
Yeah,
Exactly.
where it makes it about bloodlines instead of about like people, just
People, yeah.
regular people.
A hero's journey. Like, the hero's journey people are usually a normal person
Yeah.
that then takes up the challenge. Like, Luke wasn't. Luke eventually, he was Anakin's kid, whatever.
Right.
Harry Potter, pretty much a normal person. Like, yeah, his parents were great, but they were like 20 something wizards.
Hmm.
So he really came from just nothing.
Yeah,
And then they
superpower is rich,
Stole it from
basically.
Rey. Like, they stole that great storyline from
Yeah.
her. All right.
One thing I want to talk about Canto Bite.
Mm.
I'm glad we mentioned the kind of political aspect to it. The scene between DJ and Finn when they are on the weapons dealer's yacht and he's going through and sees that, oh,
Yeah.
he sells weapons to the bad guys and flips the screen.
Yeah.
Oh, and the good guys.
Yeah.
I wish we had gone forward with that because that
Yes.
is an interesting idea to introduce, because like the whole idea in this movie is Finn trying to understand what he's fighting for, and is he going to buy into the resistance, and him like realizing shit, things are a little more like shady
Gray.
than things are a little more gray. It's not as black and white. I like that they introduce that, and he still like realizes, no, I'm gonna put my weight into the resistance. There may be some aspects that are bad, but like,
But
I'm
they're
gonna
not
fight-
fascists.
yeah, I'm gonna fight still to defend the people I love and to
Mhm.
defend the people of the galaxy, no matter what it takes. And so yeah, I enjoy that. I kind of wish we had found a way to talk about that more in the movies, but interesting thing
Yeah.
to bring up in there.
True.
Mhm.
And I think so. One more small thing to bring up, because I think this movie itself, I don't think has that many problems in and of itself, right? I don't.
Mhm.
There are not that many things I think that are wrong with this movie as a movie, but I think what we're really starting to hint at is this movie's place among the trilogy, among the 9
Yeah.
episode Skywalker Saga in general, and how things don't pay off in later movies.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily do a great job of franchise building
Right.
in that sense.
Yeah.
And the one that, again, I don't think it's a particularly big problem with this movie, but it becomes a major problem when we have to try and buy into some things in the next movie.
Yes.
Is that ostensibly our three main heroes, our trio of characters. You've got Rey, you've got Finn, you've got Poe. The three of them don't appear in a scene together until the end of this movie. They don't get a scene together at all in Force Awakens, and then not until the very end of this movie. And for a story that is ultimately follows a lot of pretty standard storytelling mechanisms, such as the rule of three, rule of threes.
It's trope heavy. Like
it's
you're
trope
relying
heavy
on these tropes.
And to then, when we get into the next movie, to rely on the chemistry of the three of them together and buy into the relationship doesn't ultimately work for us.
No. They were lucky that the three leads were such good actors and obviously got along well together and had good acting chemistry, because it really could have fallen flat.
Yeah. But moving on. This movie does do a lot of work to build the world and build the Star Wars franchise. Colleen, what's that biggest one that we just love about this movie?
Yes, Leia using the Force. I love it. She does a lot in Legends with her Force training, but she still kind of gives it up to pursue the government role, which is a lot like canon, so I'm fine with it. I waited most of my life, ever since I was 7 and saw Leia and was like, I love her. I want to be her. I've been waiting to see her break loose with the Force. She has the same potential as Luke. They come from the same parents. Like, it's there. It may be hiding and latent, but it's there. And she finally gets to show off. I love it. Not just any Jedi could survive the vacuum of space for that long, especially after feeling that emotional whiplash of your son almost was gonna kill you. Like, she felt him coming in. And then he pulls back and she's like, okay, a little bit relief that he didn't kill her. But then random TIE pilot comes in and almost kills her anyway. She still has the presence of mind to prepare herself with the Force, because she knows, she could feel it coming. You can see it on her face. She's like, well, shit. We're all gonna die. So she braces herself with the Force. I love that. Like, it just shows her strength and resilience. And I was ready to see it, and we got it, and I was happy.
And we touched on this already a little bit, but the business of war. Now, we know from some Rebels and some expanded universe stuff about the Empire building factories to churn out their navy and all of their war machines on various planets all the way throughout the galaxy, but we never really got a sense of the capitalism involved in the whole thing on making ships and weapons. Again, there is some stuff about those corporate partners and things in some of the novels and the comics and stuff, but it's never really been brought up on screen like this. And hey, the First Order, just like us in this country, they use subcontractors and government corporations. It works out. I don't know about you guys, but I think before this moment, like, in my mind, I just always assumed that, like, the Rebels either stole or, like, built their own stuff. I knew that, like, the Mon Calamari fleet was from that planet, but, like, all the X-Wings and stuff, I think I just kind of assumed that they had to, like, build those themselves. The idea that they were buying them never crossed my mind.
I mean, sometimes buying, sometimes stealing. You know, I believe in Rebels, don't they steal some Y-Wing bombers?
Yes.
Yeah, they steal the Y-Wings. Corey makes a few things for them.
The B-Wings. Oh, the B-Wings. I can't wait to talk about the B-Wings.
So we also get to see, I like that we get to see this across both movies, actually, what the average person kind of thinks and knows about the Resistance and the Jedi. So, like, in Force Awakens, we see Finn and Rey. So, like, oh, Han Solo, the smuggler? No, the general. And then we get to see with Rose and the boy on Canto Bight, like, they're so in awe to see these heroes in their mind. Like, Rose, like, you're one of the guys who helped us, like, destroy the Star Killer base. Oh goodness, my brain is blank today. And then the boy on Canto Bight, like, when he sees the Resistance symbol and he's in awe, and then they're talking, and they're talking about Luke Skywalker's sacrifice. It's nice seeing this from the view of just kind of your average person, because most of Star Wars we see it from like kind of the higher up people, and it's nice seeing what the average person thinks. It's nice knowing that that symbol gives hope to people.
Next up is hyperspace tracking, and this gets a throwaway mention in Rogue One as Jyn and Cassian are searching for the Death Star plans. But here, all this time later in the next movie, it comes to fruition.
Yes. I like that there's a connection there.
Yeah. I think I had to rewatch Rogue One to actually pick up on that one. But it is there all the way back in the Empire. They were trying to figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
And they kind of did it a little bit in Rebels, but this is the most advanced version.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we also get to see the battering ram cannon. So that is miniaturized Death Star tech. So up until now, we see
Death
the First
Star
Order is
grog.
always... Yeah. Yes. Grog. Grond.
Ron, sorry.
Oh,
Yes.
the wolf
Yes.
battering ram from Lord of the Rings.
Hell yeah.
Woo!
Which, oh my gosh, don't even get me started, because that is one of my favorite parts of that movie. It gets me every time. But I love this because up until now, we see the First Order like go bigger, 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 because they have Starkiller Base, which
More.
is just
More, Daniel. More.
So instead of seeing the giant gorilla walkers or like Starkiller Base, they're like, no, what if we did something efficient and streamlined? So it's like, wow, First Order, you're growing. Good for you. I love that.
It's really great. And then next up, we have what this film does about our understanding of the Force, how it works, what you can do with it. And I gotta say, major flex by Snoke. His Force lightning is next level when he just like bounces it off the floor to
Sends
zap
flying.
Kylo. Yes.
That is some major power coming out of this guy.
Oh my gosh.
Insane.
So cool.
I wish we'd gotten more of him.
Yes, taken from us too soon. But apparently there's some of him, sitting in some test tubes somewhere. So maybe we'll get another one.
Hopefully someday. I like this part. The Force, it always finds a way. As Kylo gets stronger, so does his counterpoint in the light. Balance. The Force likes balance, you guys. As Palpatine fucked around and found out, so did Snoke. Don't mess with Skywalkers who are in Ascension mode. Do not, even if they're on the dark side, because they're going to wreck you. Also love this, the Force time.
Yes.
Whoever came up with the term Force time, I am bowing down to you right now, because that is fantastic, especially in the COVID day and age. Funny story, they added the part where Kylo isn't wearing a shirt. Thank you, by the way.
Yes.
And for the memes also that sprung from that.
Yes, everything sprung from that. I'm not lying to you guys. They used that to make sure the audience was aware that the two characters could, in fact, actually see each other. Not only are these two having full conversations, though, Snoke says he's the reason they are, which I think is kind of a lie here. He thinks he's telling the truth, but it's their dyad connection that Sara mentioned before.
Yeah.
He might be enhancing it.
I think
But
he's enhancing it. Like there's a reason that this hasn't happened before now.
So this is my understanding of it, and I don't think this is like officially said anywhere, but this is the way I've always rationalized it. I think that their dyad started in The Force Awakens when Kylo's trying to breach her mind and like she kind of breaks through. Yeah. I think in that moment they bond, like the Force ties them together in that moment. And I think Snoke is aware and manipulates it, but I don't think he's the full reason, like he says. I think he's, as always, he's projecting because, like his giant projection in The Force Awakens. I think he likes the theater and the idea of being all powerful.
Definitely an opera fan.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. The drama of it all. He loves it. So we also get to see some ghost power-ups. Yoda in this ghost form uses the lightning. We've never seen a ghost do that, and I think it's really neat. This is something that the Bendu in Rebels kind of does. Like we see him interact with the weather and lightning and things like that. But this is the first time we see it in live action and from a dead character. So that, yeah, it's really neat. I love the little ways they expand that. So pretty cool.
Ooh, I can't wait till we get to talk about the Bendu, you guys.
Yeah.
Space moves forever. Next, we have force projection. Also really cool. If you look closely, you can see that Luke doesn't leave the red footprints, like Sara said, on the crate's planet surface, indicating that he's not really there. You know, Kylo not paying attention. Earlier, when Kylo and Rey are talking, Kylo notes that Rey isn't powerful enough to project herself that far. It would kill her, which foreshadows that it will kill Luke. No matter how powerful you are, guys, this is gonna kill you, which is very sad, but also I do love that this is how he chooses to sacrifice himself. Like he does get that last moment with Ben. And I love the line that everything you just said is wrong.
Also, going back to what we were saying about how like everyone in these movies is willing to lay down and sacrifice their lives, but no one else is willing to let them do it.
Right.
They couldn't get to
course,
Luke.
Exactly. Of course, Luke only does it because he knows he's safe from anyone coming in to try and save him.
The caretakers do not care.
No,
they will actually be happy. They're like, yo, we will fold this robe and clean your room, and then we'll be all set.
You burned our tree, but we'll take care of your clothes.
And speaking of Luke, Luke cuts himself off from the Force. Rey says that she saw nothing from him, which is super duper cool. We've seen this in some other expanded content, like with Ahsoka and Kanan, and even Grogu, but this is the first time we've really heard of someone cutting themselves off from the Force. So cool.
How he didn't know Han was dead was devastating. When he said, "Where's Han?"
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
Thanks for making me remember that from Force Awakens. That's great.
I wish they hadn't cut the deleted scene that has Luke just take a moment alone to grieve. I think we did need that.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. And then the last bit of force knowledge that we get, or we assume we have, are those original Jedi texts from over 1,000 generations ago. First of all, I mean, do trees really are they really good at preserving paper like that well?
I hope they have insurance. That's all I gotta say.
I mean, how careful was Rey when she took those books? I think this might actually be the first time we've seen an actual physical book in Star Wars as well.
Yeah.
I think
so.
It's not a data pad, so
outside
that gives
of
a sense.
The other books, yes. The Chiss have books, guys.
Yeah, the Chiss have books, but we haven't actually seen them yet.
No.
I mean, I love this idea that the Jedi had this ancient written knowledge that they were starting to pass down, and that they preserved it for this long, even if, page turners, they are not.
Yoda. He got really smart when he died, guys.
Yeah.
All right. Now moving on, Sarah, I think you had a couple questions.
Yeah, I've just got one really big one. I don't know how you all felt or how you felt about this, but what was it like for you when you saw Luke just toss his lightsaber behind him and sulk away to go home?
He yeeted that shit right behind him. I loved it. I full on cackled in the theater when he did that.
Oh my God.
From the first movie, people were sitting there like, oh my gosh, he sees the lightsaber. This is his saber. It's his dad's saber. Oh my God, this is going to be a momentous moment. And then Luke's like, nah, I don't have time for this. And he chucks it. I think that in this moment, Rey standing there reminds him of a young him.
Yeah.
Like this idealistic person holding out the lightsaber, this call to action, call to adventure. And he's like, nope.
Been down this road.
Yep, I played that already. I know how to beat it, and I'm just done now. I loved it. Loved it.
I remember just like my jaw dropping. I was stunned and speechless. It's just like, whoa, wait, what the fuck just happened? But
yeah,
this is the first indicator to me as I'm watching the movie that this is going to take my expectations of what Star Wars is or what it can be. It's going to throw them out the window, watch them fall and crash down on the street, and then ultimately give me something that I never could have even dreamed of, that I never could have thought of or expected.
So I was pretty shocked when that happened. I was not expecting that at all. I don't think I had like any strong emotion. I was just like, oh, wow, what? Though after we see kind of where his emotions are and where his head's at, I think I kind of like it more now because I'm like, yeah, of course. In that moment, he'd be like, no, get this away from me.
Yeah.
In the moment, I was just kind of like, okay, we'll see where this goes. But yeah,
It's
now
like-
now
yeah.
I like it.
It's like the
Cool.
X-Wing. He sank it. He didn't destroy it. So
Mhm.
some part of him is still in there wanting
Yeah,
the choice to go back if he has to.
but he wants to make it. Don't hand
Yeah,
it to
he
him.
wants to make it. Sarah, what did you think about this? That you posed this question.
Yeah.
Now I'm very curious.
Yeah,
I'm of two minds for it. On the one hand, I really love it because I think it's one way for Luke to say, don't take it so seriously because I'm not going to anymore. And it also really fit in my mind of like Luke, just this whiny kid who never gets his way. And this is just one more thing that he doesn't want to deal with. And so, of course, he's going to throw a temper tantrum. And that kind of fit into the Luke that I'm not crazy about, but have come to expect at times.
Mhm.
But on the other hand, I've listened to other people talk about canon Luke with such reverence and respect. I don't know that Luke. So like the Luke that I see makes a lot of sense to me, but what I hear about this other Luke, I'm almost offended on his behalf as to what happened to Luke.
Yeah, Legends Luke is pretty pristine. I mean, he has some dark side moments, but for the most part, he's the most Jedi badass out there.
Yeah. Yeah, so I feel a sense of loss for Luke in this moment, and that makes me feel an icky kind of way.
I feel bad for the people who read and invested in Legends so much and
Right.
then had that Luke in their head for
Yeah.
so long
Right.
and then saw this Luke and were like, what? Because I didn't read Legends until after. So both Lukes exist in my head basically concurrently.
Mm.
And I can
I-
accept both of them, but I feel bad for Legends people.
I could be wrong, but I think I had read that like Mark Hamill was really disgusted with what had happened to
Yeah.
Luke.
He was very confused and upset. And then
Yeah.
eventually he came around and was like, okay, well, this version of Luke, it makes sense. But he still was like, but Legends Luke, though.
Yep.
yeah.
I
He
could
got to be married.
could've
and have
done
a
that.
kid. Yeah, exactly. He could have had Mara Jade. Come on, people. By the way, give us Mara Jade, cowards.
Right. Oh my goodness. Well, I do have a question for y'all. Where did everyone think episode 9 was going to go in terms of villain after seeing this movie? Because I left the theater thinking, okay, they killed Snoke. Like we thought he was the big bad. In my mind, Kylo was going to be the big bad of episode 9. Like that was going to be it.
Mhm.
So what do y'all think?
Yeah, after Snoke got wrecked completely.
Yeah.
I thought Kylo would be the big bad, but like Hux standing behind him with a knife, ready to stab him in the back. I wanted to see the back and forth between them, like kind of the struggle that these two young men would have trying to maintain hold
Mhm.
on the First Order. You would think Hux would actually have the advantage because the men follow him.
Right.
He's the general. Kylo's just this like weird emo kid who shows up and has force abilities. And they're like, oh, we follow you now? I'm confused because the general's right there.
Yeah.
That could have been really cool. And the actors work really well together.
Yes, they have a great chemistry together.
The power struggle would have been cool. And if that is what brought down the First Order was a power struggle that they killed themselves, I would have loved to have seen that. Also, where's Ray Sloan?
Yeah.
I want my girl. I want my girl. If she had come out and actually been like in charge of the First Order after Snoke died, she was like, well, the Force users failed again. It's time to take back over. I would have been here for that.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Yeah, I definitely thought that they were going to go with Kylo. And then I think in my mind, episode 9 was going to be the ultimate question, you know, was Kylo going to be redeemed?
Mhm.
Was he going to even try? Was Rey going to be able to reach him? Because at the end of this movie, you really don't know. He could go either way.
Did you guys want Kylo to be redeemed?
Yes.
I love a redemption arc, you guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly,
I am a basic redemption arc bitch. Give it
honestly,
to me.
I didn't want to see a redemption arc. I wanted to see something different. I wanted to see Kylo just full on embrace the darkness and Rey try so hard and realize that you can't save
everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, because I love the fact that like Vader gets redeemed. I love that Anakin gets to rejoin the Force and has this moment, but he did unforgivable things, and did he really deserve it? And so to forgive another mass murderer, I think it was a little too much for me. So I wanted him not to, because the way they left him in this movie, I was like, oh, he's a villain. So,
yeah. Sarah, you said
we
yes
talk
too.
more about my thoughts.
Why do you want it?
Well, I really wanted him to be redeemed because I could sense that conflict in him and I believed in his goodness.
Yeah. I really had thought that he made his choice in that throne room right then and there. That he was like, nope, this is it. I can take it now. It's mine for the taking. And when like him and Rey had that struggle, I was full on sold on the idea that he had chosen his path.
He broke that.
Yeah,
completely.
I only wanted him to be redeemed for Leia's sake. Like, I don't really care about him.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about that, I'm sure, for the next pod about Leia and what was supposed to be for that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that redemption arc for Kylo happening because driven by his mother, which would be different than a lot of redemption arcs. Like it's not usually a parent that makes somebody go on a redemption arc, so that would have been really cool to just have his connection with his mother be so central to his life that her sacrificing herself would bring him back. Now I'm sad.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is where we're going. I think that is where we are going to leave the main discussion for today. So let's move on into recommendations. Colleen.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I've recommended this once before, but please read it again. Leia, Princess of Alderaan by Claudia Gray. This gives the Holdo content. All of like the young Luna Lovegood Holdo content. Leia and her have been friends since they were 16. Like it gives so much more weight to Adeline Holdo's arc in this movie, knowing that they've been together that long. And then next we have, I haven't read this one. It's on my list, my very long Star Wars book list. It's set during The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, Canto Bight. This is a novella collection that centers around the Casino City. And there's just not a lot of content during this time still. They still don't have a ton of canon content yet. So this would be a good one to jump into if you're interested in the Canto Bight sequence of this movie, which we don't necessarily enjoy, but the novellas probably flesh it out more and give us more of that kind of capitalism take on Star Wars, which is cool. And then, of course, this is my kind of out of the box choice. I enjoy a sequel that like breaks the mold of the first installment, ups the ante, changes the game, flips everything. So this week I'm recommending the Mad Adam trilogy by Margaret Atwood. It's science fiction. I'm sorry, Margaret. It is science fiction. She's going to kill us all for me saying that. Come for the Walmart dystopian nightmare of book 1, which is Orcs and Crake, but then stay for the sequel, which has hyper intelligent pigs that will definitely kill you.
Oh, man.
And that book is called The Year of the Flood. And then book 3 gets even crazier. It's a great trilogy. It has a wonderful payoff, lots of great characters, lots of strong female characters. So if you're in the market for that kind of story, check out Mad Adam Trilogy.
Cool. So for all my gamers out there, the thing I'm going to suggest is Gears of War 5. So it feels very spiritually similar to Last Jedi. It's the follow-up. So it's the second in a new trilogy. It follows a first entry that was kind of safe and played off a lot of the tropes of the old trilogy. So the second entry is also from a new studio. It's got a darker story tone, excuse me. It's got a little bit of controversial story decisions. And then there's a section that's in like a red sandy desert. So that's cool. So it feels very spiritually similar to Last Jedi. And then this has nothing to do with like fantasy or sci-fi at all, but I've been listening to a lot of Lucy Dacus lately, and she's got a really great voice. She's a great singer. She has a single called Hot and Heavy, and it's really good. So everyone should listen to her.
I love a music rec.
Is that our first music rec so far?
I think it is.
Might be. Now I'm going to have to think about that, Daniel. Jeez.
Yeah. I like it. The video is really good. Everyone should watch it.
Right. For me, as always, the novelization of the movie. In this case, it's by Jason Fry. Some incredible details, specifically about the supremacy, and also some extra scenes, including some more interactions with the caretakers, including that third lesson that Luke says he's going to teach Rey. If you notice, he says he's going to teach her 3, but he only actually does 2 in the movie. the third one's in the book. And then, if you are a fan of a grumpy old former hero coming out of retirement to teach a new up-and-comer, I'm going to recommend that you check out Batman Beyond. This is the animated series set in a future Gotham where a retired Bruce Wayne has to train a new generation's Batman, the teenager Terry McGinnis. Warner Brothers, stop telling us how Thomas and Martha Wayne got shot in an alley and just give us a Batman Beyond movie, you freaking cowards.
Yes.
Also, if you were a fan of a
Bruce Wayne.
Also, if you were a fan of a grumpy old hero who has to deal with the consequences of his former actions, definitely check out Batman Under the Red Hood, where Batman has to deal with his past failures in a very brutal way. Similarly, check out the Death in the Family arc, both in the comics and actually it's on HBO Max right now.
Well, my recommendation is an absolutely incredible show on Amazon Prime Video, and it's called Invincible. It is about a superhero, and he's this young teenage boy who's coming into his own. It really subverts some of your expectations. Definitely when I was watching episode 1, you're going to get hooked in episode 1. But I remember watching through the first maybe 30 minutes of episode 1, thinking, okay, this is pretty standard. I know what I'm supposed to be expecting here. And then all of a sudden, buckle up, buckaroo. I won't spoil anything except to say, give the full episode your entire attention because you are in for a treat. Yes. I will say, though, graphic spoiler warnings. Yeah, 18 plus, and they do mean it.
Yes.
For some violence that happens throughout the series. So watch out for that. I've had to look away during several things, and my husband has had to narrate to me what is going on.
That's fair. Cartoon violence for some reason gets to me way more.
Yeah. Oh, it's graphic.
It's so graphic. Stephen Yeun, though, give me all the Stephen Yeun. Yes, please.
I co-sign this. Invincible's fantastic. Also, I have to say, J.K. Simmons, an amazing voice actor. I love when he shows up.
Oh, so he's Tenzin, and then he's this.
He's Tenzin, and he's Omni-Man. Also, I just love that in episode 1, the main character's little high school gay friend talks about how hot Omni-Man is, and I'm like, I felt that. I felt that on a personal level.
Yep.
I love his gay friend so much.
Yeah, William's the best. Everyone should watch Invincible. Sarah, I'm so glad you brought this up.
Well, I mean, it's the only show that's literally made me scream out loud and several different times. It's just, it gets you. It really gets you. So there we go. But Colleen, I think that's it. So do you want to take us away to our outro?
I shall take us out of this wonderful podcast. So thank you all for joining us today. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at YASWpod. Subscribe to us wherever you can get your podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple. Hit the subscribe button real hard. Check out all of the offerings in the Forgotten Entertainment family at forgottenentertainment.com. You can also find Anders, Sara, and I, plus Flo, who you've met before, on Bohemian Geek Studies podcast, where we're currently diving into Star Wars Rebels. You can also find my Star Wars book reviews on bohemiangeekstudies.com, still an NGO. Yes, it's 19 books. There's going to be a lot of reviews. Tune in again next time when Sara, she coming back, y'all. She going to be back.
Woo!
When we apparently call it a Wayfinder instead of just calling it a freaking holocron?
Boo. I'm
Where
already
we
booing
discuss-
this.
Holocron. It's even
Oh,
I'm
shaped
already
like
booing
one.
this movie. Boo.
Just call it holocron. Where we will be very cordially discussing, with no sort of upset whatsoever, episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. Thanks, y'all.
Exactly.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.